Welcome back to the channel, everybody. You know Sara. Sara, how many rocks have you polished?
I don't think I've done any.
Well, you did a little bit of rock tumbling.
A very small bit.
A little bit of rock tumbling, but you've never actually came out to the shop here and utilized any of the machines, and you're gonna give it a shot today.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna teach Sara how to polish some rocks.
And cut, right?
And cut. We're gonna, yeah. I mean, we got three rocks here. These are like kind of, I guess, jasp agates. I'm not a fan of that term, but these are kind of what we're working with here. There we go. Yeah. Okay. So these are from southern Utah here, the Holt Canyon area, and yeah, we're gonna bring you along. Sara's gonna learn how to cut and polish rocks, and you'll have a couple of nice things. It is a learning process. I think it's pretty rare that the very first thing that you cut and polish is going to be like top tier. So, you know, like so long as you go into it with the expectation that like it's a learning process and, you know, like you progress over time and get better and better and better at it, but you're going to skip the line a lot because we have a great shop here and I've cut and polished a ton of rocks. So there's kind of two options for cutting it. We can cut by hand, which is harder on the hands. And we do have the lower tone saw over there behind Sara that we can do that on. And then we also have the auto feed slab saw. I'm leaning towards the auto feed slab saw.
Okay.
When you have an auto feed slab saw with oil in it, you get a lot smoother cut. And then when you take it over to a machine, you get to do a lot less work. So let's take the easy route. Sure. This is the slab saw, and it functions just like every other slab saw for the most part, and that we have our vise here, and you know, there's a little thing here, and we can move this back and forth, and that moves into the spinning blade. Every rock is like obviously different and lumpy, and we have different characteristics to it that we have to probably take into consideration, and not everything can be cut perfectly, I guess. So for this one, I think we're just going to cut it kind of down the middle. So this slides back and forth, and maybe I'll clamp up the first one, and then the next rock you can clamp it up. But pretty much we got to get this thing kind of locked in here. So if we just want to cut like a piece off of this, I think maybe finding two flat and parallel sides will get us the best results here. So this whole assembly moves back and forth, and we kind of just get it close or in the little notches here, and we start to tighten it, and that closes our vise on our rock here. And we don't want to over tighten it. You can break these, probably not with this saw because a lot of this is plate steel. Some of them are cast iron, and those they can crack, and broken cast iron as well, kind of a lost cause. But once it's in there, you kind of grab the rock and you try to rip it out essentially. If you can't move it at all, it's not going to move.
Good. Yeah.
Then we want to adjust our auto off. You don't always have to do this, but we're gonna. So I moved the rock past the edge of the blade, and we'll set up our chain here so that when the rock is done cutting, it'll turn itself off, but we'll probably be hanging out and paying attention to it. It's not that big of a deal. Then you back up your carriage, you bring the rock over, and we line up or cut. So if you want to get in there and look, you can see how the rock is lined up and where our first cut's going to be. I think it'll be pretty good.
Okay.
And then the last step before turning this on is you loosen your carriage up again, and we touch the rock to the blade. And if you want to come over here and line up with your eye, the blade doesn't deflect at all. You know, if you have a round rock that's, let's say, like a, you know, really round like a ball, and you're trying to cut an off angle, the blade will deflect, and we don't want that. We want to have a nice straight even cut. And that's one of the problems with you try to cut like a a truly round rock, like not down the center. So we back it up a little bit, and now the blade is not touching the rock because we don't want that. We want to start the blade with like a gap, right? So then that's fully up and spinning by the time the rock catches it.
Right.
So that's kind of the way this works. We're all set up and ready to go here. You want to close the lid so you can put some weight up on that, and then that little latch down there brings it down. And this saw is a little different than we got the double switch. So if you want to turn on the switch on the wall, and then this switch is a little weird. You can go put your finger in there and do that, or there's a little paddle down low if you want to flip it. Now we wait.
Turn it off. This is done.
So if you look in there, it's actually, there's still a little nub of the rock, just barely. So even though it fell, we're gonna let it run for like another 30 seconds. It would turn itself off, but since we have a nice window and we can see, we'll just turn it off here, and we don't have to actually wait for the chain to turn it off. So you can hit the switch, this one, you can go like that, and then we hit our safety switch, because I've gotten sprayed with oil twice, and we'll talk more about what's in here and why I have this, but listen. That is all of the oil dripping. So we're gonna give it like 5 minutes, anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes, and let some of this oil in here. You see it? Yeah. We'll let the oil in there settle and drip so that we're less likely to get oil on our clothes.
Okay.
One of the things that you need, in my opinion, if you have oil-filled slab saw, is a respirator. Because even though it's probably been like, what, 5 minutes? What do you think?
Yeah, it's been 5 minutes.
Yeah, something like that. I'm going to open this up, and you're going to see the amount of oil mist that just kind of like floats away. And we don't want to breathe that because it will like get into your lungs, and I think it stays there. I don't know. I'm not an expert on it, but it feels like breathing oil is bad for you. So one of these. Yeah, hopefully that catches on camera. Misty. It's misty, and that's not good. But I'm going to let this air out a little bit, and then the dog and Sarah can come over here and look at the rock that we cut. If you're doing anything with these saws, you will get oil on yourself. That's like an inevitable thing. Aprons and gloves are nice. These are PVC gloves, right? So they don't get gross or disintegrate with the oil. Here is the cut, which looks super awesome, but I'm not going to show you this right now. The way we go about getting ready for the next cut or the next rock is obviously everything is off, and we back up our rock. So I just slid the vise on the carriage over, and now we can pull this all back without dragging the rock across the blade, because we just cut it, and we don't want to like introduce a bunch of, well, I guess horizontal scratches to it. So now we just loosen this, and we grab our rock, and we take both of these, and these will go over here in some kitty litter. I'll show you that in a second. And now we're ready to load up the next rock. The way we get this oil off of these rocks is with kitty litter. We'll bury them and then dig them out later. You want to throw those gloves on and grab the other rock? That apron might be a little long on you. Yes. So we got to decide how we're going to cut this thing. I think the part that's next to your right thumb right now is the part that we should kind of get rid of.
This way?
Yeah, because quartz crystals often don't polish really well, or it's very difficult to polish them. And
Straight down the
yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I think that'll be nice. It'll give us like some good chalcedony chunks that we can polish up. So it would definitely be easier if the gloves were a little smaller, probably.
Yes.
It looks like there's a little broken piece of rock in the wood vise chuck right there. On the, see that little bit? Yeah, that may. I think you're hitting that right there.
Isn't that more? This way?
We'll move. We can slide the vise around.
Right.
So long as you have the kind of area lined up that you think you want to cut on, like you want to pull the rock out more and clamp it, or
It's not as stable.
here. Let me show you one little trick that we can do here. One thing that we can do is we can take wooden wedges. Like I have some of these here. This is just like, like 2x4, right? Cut into a little wooden wedge, and we can, you want to pull the vise back? We can stick this in here and close it, and that will give us a little bit more space to work.
It's still loose.
And I think that's pretty tight, just like right there. I do think maybe a appropriately sized gloves is good advice for anybody trying to teach another person how to how to cut rocks. I think right there even is pretty good. We'll make sure this is tight, give that a little extra spin. That is not going anywhere. You can actually over tighten. We don't want to like break anything, right? So like, these, this is a good tightness. You want to put a glove on and just feel how tight I made that?
It's pretty tight.
It's pretty tight. We don't want the rock to come loose. A rock
Let me try. I'll try moving it around.
Yeah, try grabbing the rock and shaking it.
No.
If the rock comes loose in here, we could wreck our blade. And blades that are 20 inches can be, $150 to $300, just like shoo into the garbage. So that's an important thing to factor in. For this one, we'll actually just take the chain off, and we're going to listen for it to drop.
Yeah.
The auto off is nice if you're doing something else. Like, we could be running the shop vac or something. You're not listening for it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think we're good to set this up. You remember the step where we make sure that we go in it, is the blade deflecting at all? Like,
I don't think so.
And then we back it up just a little bit. And there we go, we're good. I think we're good. Second rock finished, and this is our third rock right here. And you can see there's kind of a more elaborate clamping fixture going on. That is the Slabosaurus. And the reason for that is there's no nice way to hold this rock in a perpendicular vise chuck. So I have this so that we can get a nice face cut on there, and it just kind of is fully clamped in, and we'll cut that face off in hopes that the rest of the rock is good. That's definitely a more complex and expensive setup. I mean, really all of it is kind of expensive, but having something like this for holding your weird shaped rocks is kind of a necessity. I have built these clamps. I've tried other clamps, and really, as far as I can tell so far, this is the best version of that I've found. So we can start this, and we'll have, I guess, 3 rocks, six individual halves that we can look at and determine what you want to polish.
Cool.
These are the 3 rocks cut, and most of them, I think, would lend themselves really well to polishing. Obviously, when we cut this stuff, right, we're kind of thinking about like just one rock, right? And the thing is, like with this one, you can kind of see here the little quartz crystals and how they would just kind of rip out if we were to take them to the wheel. So we kind of knew that going in, and that's just kind of probably discarded. And then clearly this is kind of just like a weird end cut that we're not going to really focus on. So really it's kind of like these three and then also this half. But, you know, when you're cutting things in half just to polish one side, you're like, well, why, right? Like take the bigger of the two, provided there's no cracks or anything. And we're looking pretty good on all of these. They all kind of have like some cool features to them. Is there one that you think is better that you want to go for?
Not this one.
This one is pretty cool though. Like it has like some like kind of almost ghostly faint fortifications in it.
Yeah.
I might polish this one up if you don't want to.
Either of those, I kind of lean towards the other one.
Okay. Well, I mean, I kind of like these.
Yeah, they're all good.
I might polish them myself later on, or maybe you'll fall in love with this. You could just do all of it. Yeah, I mean, I think this is good. You know, you get that fortified agate. We get like some cool colors in there. I like that it not very showy on the outside. I mean, you can kind of tell, but like the inside is great, and that's kind of what I like out of polishing rocks is like rocks that look like junk on the outside and you like cut them. I mean, it's kind of like a thunder egg, right? Yeah. So cool. Well, yeah, we can do that. Let's head over and polish this up. I will say all three of these I think are good candidates. You know, if you were to have a more lower quality rock with like cracks and fractures and stuff, it will be a lot more challenging. And if we look at this thing dry, let me dry this real quick. You can see we do have some scratches from the slab saw, but that's kind of normal. Now, if you were to cut this on something that's not the slab saw, like let's say a tile saw, we'd have some deep gouges that we would have to really like work out, and that is not fun. This is the machine that we're going to be using. It is the Lorton NS8 Arbor. Obviously 2 wheels, right? And they're like a squishy, very squishy rubber, and they expand, and we have these belts on here. That one that you're touching there is the 80 grit and then a 220 grit, and then we're gonna, you know, progressively like run up through all the different stages, bringing this thing to a nice polish. It's pretty simple. Here, you grab the camera. I'll show you a couple of things here. You got it? Okay, so when you're working like a flat stone on a wheel, it's important to support it. You know, like you want to like kind of hold it probably like that, both hands on it, and the wheel's spinning. The thing that you want to avoid is rotating it, right? Like you can go this way and then this way, so you have the same orientation through it. And then you don't want to go like this on a top edge. It's gonna like flip out of your hands. So think about it like this way, and then once you get up to this edge, you could flip it over. So, you know, you could spend a little bit of time going like this, then flip it over and go like this. The belts are not going to cut you, but the edges might. So like if you were to have your fingers here and touch the edge, there's just the fact that it's an edge that's spinning could cut you. So, you know, kind of figure out how you want to hold it and get in here and work it like that. How about I'll show you here, and then you can hop in. We do have water, so I usually start it up ahead of time and then figure out the water after the fact. So water on. We don't need a lot of water, you know, and like I can touch this and it's just fine. So One thing that we can do that can help when you're learning how to polish rocks is use a pencil on here, and we'll just make some streaks, and you can see when where they've been removed and they have it. Some people will like to use a Sharpie. I don't really like that because sometimes it can wick in, and now you have to deal with getting marker off. So we can just kind of come in here with our pencil, and you'll probably be able to see this a lot better once you kind of like roll the light over it. You can see pencil marks a little bit more. And I'm just gonna support it from underneath. Not spending too much time in one spot, but also kind of using the full wheel. You know, if this was a littler rock, like you had a little thing, you don't want to just like only spend time in the middle. We can use the full width of this. So to turn the water off, you can just throw that. We can turn the machine off, and we're going to spend a little bit more time on the 80 grit, but we can dry this in between and see where we're at. We're pretty much looking for a nice even consistency on here. You know, the idea is that we create smaller and smaller scratches, and eventually it gets to the point where it wants to bounce light back into your eye. So you can see here, we took off like the high points, but we still have a bunch of marks from the slab saw. So we need to spend some more time on the 80 grit. And generally, the lower grits, like, you know, your 80, 220, whatever, all the way up to 3,000, 14,000, the lower the grits, you spend more time. We're taking out bigger and bigger scratches, and we just want to ensure that by the time we get up into the 600, 1200, everything's good and there's not like a deep old scratch.
Okay.
Does that sound good? You want to give it a shot?
Yeah. Put it on.
And I already set up this water. So for this one, that wheel, you can just go like this and now you're good. That's pretty much it. That's like the technique and what you have to do. And we just do that over and over, going through the different grits.
How do I know when to stop? Oh, well, I can still see lines on the edges here.
Yeah. You know, we're not trying to make a perfectly flawlessly flat rock. It's really hard to do that on a round wheel. So you can kind of angle it, right? Like you can take your rock and like get those edges a little bit, or push in a little harder, a little more pressure going into it. I mean, these are very squishy wheels. Why don't you spend like another 30 seconds on it, and then we'll turn the machine off and we'll dry it and see if there's any spots left. At this point, we can check it. So if you want to stop, and I turn the water off, we can give it like a couple of seconds, and it just kind of like spins some of the water out.
It's like maybe like a chip right there.
Yeah, that was from just like the cutting process, and we're not really going to work that out. We're really just kind of focusing on a nice, even, consistent finish on it. And we have the blower, which we can cheat and blow the... So what do you think? Where is there any spots? I see a couple right there. And one thing that we could do is when you're on the wheel, put a little bit more pressure, right? Like a little bit more oomph into that. And we still want to ensure that we're like getting that nice even directions, but just kind of, you know, a little more there maybe. Otherwise, I think that's looking pretty good for an 80 grit. When you roll the light, you can see if there's any scratches. It's kind of, you have to pick it for the orientation for your eyeballs.
It's right there.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be able to work that out. We might be able to, but those are two spots where you could put a little bit more pressure into that wheel, I think.
Okay.
I feel like you're pretty good there. That 80, I think we got out all of our saw marks. And how long do you think you're polishing that?
5 minutes?
Yeah, that's probably about right. Yeah, maybe about 5 minutes. And I think that's going to probably be the longest stage here. You know, maybe all the coming stages are going to be more in the 2-minute mark. So really you could kind of think about it, right? Like 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds, check it. And then if we need to do more, and this is also a stage where it's kind of important to have good material, because right now you could have this at 80 grit, and that one that had all the quartz where it just like pop out, it could have streaked around and left like a deep gouge through the face of the stone. It's a little bit more of a problem on like, there's no lap here, but a flat lap. You're more likely to have that than...
So just sit in there.
Yeah.
It's probably going to fall off.
It's going to like wrap around and get flung out. So we're going to do 220. It's essentially the same thing. And we're going to go up through the stages, okay? Each time checking it. And then maybe once we get up towards our finish belts, we'll show these people. And then we'll do the final buff, which that's where everything really pops and shines. One thing that I should point out here, I built everything in this shop, right, for me. I'm 5'9", and this is a machine that I've made to, like, for me to stand at, and like my orientation is here, and I'm like able to kind of look down the wheel and see where I'm at. And you're not 5'9", so something to factor in is the ergonomics of standing at the machine. So yeah, that's definitely something to factor in. Like when we're using a flat lap, you're getting a very perfect and flat thing. There will be a little like roll to the edge, which is totally fine. But what we don't want is to roll the edge a little bit on a low grit, move up through those grits, and have that rolled edge of that flat face not being polished at all. You'll have like a polished face of the rock, and then around the rim, it'll be like a matte or satin finish. One of the things that happens quite often is people, it's actually just wet. It looks really shiny in camera. That's we just did the 400 grit. We're going to take it over to the sink and wash it real quick. We don't want to transfer any potential grit over to another wheel. That doesn't really happen with silicon carbide, but we want to make sure if there's, let's say, like a microscopic little 400 grit in that rock, we get that out and it doesn't like peel out and streak the wheel or, you know, streak across the face. This is when having a shop sink is so nice.
Wash it with soap?
Yeah, you just throw a little dish soap on it. It really does help a lot. You know, we're not doing dishes here. It just needs to get a little clean. One of the difficult things to try to convey to somebody that's new polishing is when to move up in grits. That's kind of like, it's kind of an experience thing. Like you will start to learn the difference between like a 220 finish on something hard like agate and jasper and a 400 or 400 and 800. And that's kind of just when you know, like it's a little bit of a tough one to try to convey. I think this is one of the few things that I do think having somebody with you, teaching you in your polishing, as opposed to doing what I did, which was just have a book.
Yeah.
Just because it's like an impossible thing to try to describe, like what is the level of finish of 400 grit. I do think when you're going through these stages, really trying to like look at it dry and pay attention and try to like commit it to memory as much as you can does help for future polishes.
I can see spots on it that are more dull. Do I need to go back like right there?
We might have to. We'll see what that looks like after the 800. We can go back and do a little bit more 400 and just kind of check some of that. I don't know if I don't think that chip is getting bigger exactly. Kind of move the light here. This is a 1200 grit silicon carbide finish. Now we'll do 3000 diamond, 14,000 diamond, and it's going to look excellent at that point, and we'll do some stuff to make it even look better. So you did 14,000 grit, and I think for a lot of people would see this and be like, that's great as is, and I agree. I do think it is great. 14,000 can look fantastic. However, this thing right here can make it look even better. It's like, you know, just like that final little step, because we're going to use optical grade cerium oxide, which I want to say it's 0.9 micron is the grit. I don't know. I'm not going to do the mesh grit micron conversion here. But this does have its own kind of techniques and stuff, which I'll show you. You might notice Sarah has her apron on and gloves. I also wear gloves for this because this polish right here, which is awesome, has a way of like getting on your everything and not wanting to come off. And I handle cameras and things. So for starters, we wet this, and right now it's just like a dry little packed thing of powder, and it doesn't take much. Kind of what we're looking for is just kind of a wet clay kind of consistency, and it's very dry because it's been warm out here. So we'll spray this, and we'll also spray this, and we will add some of this cerium, some of this, to the wheel, and then we will press our rock up to it. Now, kind of how when you had the rock before over on the round wheel, you were not working on the leading edge, you know, because it might flip out. Similarly, you're going to hold the rock kind of like this and put your arms up against your body and press in. Except you want to press more weight on this back side.
Okay.
Right? So it's almost like this is kind of like floating. You want to bring the camera in here real quick? So we're kind of floating, right?
Hard to tell.
We're kind of floating, and that just means that we're working on this back edge of the rock, and we can rotate this, right? So we can be like here and rotate and rotate and rotate, and we're going to kind of work in this range. So in the off chance that you, like, you know, let's say nosedive and it catches, the rock goes this way, right? This way. If you were here and it caught, it could come this way, and we don't want that. So this is, of course, the cerium oxide carpet wheel that I invented. There's plans up on the website. It spins really slow. We're like 200 RPM, and we just put a little bit of water. Nothing too crazy. I'm gonna grab some gloves, and it's a combination of polish. The friction from the carpet generating heat creates an absolute killer polish, all right? And a little more water. It's kind of a little bit of a balancing act to figure out the exact amount of polish and water to get it just right. But you can always add some more water, but you can't really take it away. So I can load up the middle here, and I'll show you how we grab it out. See how that is going to be on everything. So I can just touch this in the center now, and I get some polish on the rock. And now you come in here and you can see it's kind of making a mess. I may have put a little bit too much water, and we see that because it's kind of wet here. And I'm just putting more pressure on this side, supporting it with the front, and just kind of pressing in. And it's just kind of skating. If I was to go like that, it would flip out, you know? And you can already see just that right there is getting a very liquidy polish. So I'm going to have you do it now. And I'm going to take these off because look. You can start with some light pressure and just keep it going. Move it around. You can pull it away, check it, see if you need to grab more polish out of the center of the wheel. I'd probably grab more. And yeah, kind of drag it down. Look at that thing just like that's not even clean. Yeah, that's great. And you kind of want to put a lot of pressure into it, so you can kind of like use your body and lean into it some. And if we feel like the wheel starts to dry out at all, we can give it just the tiniest little spritz of water. Like, that's probably enough to be able to bring some of that polish down. And that kind of area you're working right now on the wheel is good. Don't work on that leading edge, put all that pressure on the back edge of the rock. Probably doesn't pick up on the mics very well, but you can kind of almost hear it, right? Like you can hear when you're like leaning in it goes like a
yeah.
Any little maybe imperfections in it? You want to take it over to the carpet wheel a little bit more, maybe? Like,
I don't know. Hard to tell. I'm not really sure.
You can do another like 30 seconds. Won't hurt. This is definitely a stage where doing more is all you're doing is, I guess, wasting a little bit of time. You know, another minute, 30 seconds. We can even add some more polish. You can even add it directly on if you need to grab more. Let's see it. I think you might be good here.
Okay.
So put it directly in the bucket of water. The big downside to the whole cerium oxide thing is cleaning the rock. If you let the cerium oxide like dry on that rock, it's a nightmare to get it off. So now we're going to be doing a process of soaking and scrubbing and probably some textile gunning, which I'll show you how to use a textile gun, but it's awesome. I got off everything that we could get off with, like, you know, just a brush and dish soap. So with a gloved hand and a rag, we're going to hold the rock, and we're going to be using a textile gun. So this puts out like a little needle of water, right? And it puts out a sharp needle of water that can actually like puncture the skin. And we don't want to do that. So we're going to take our rock and really carefully go over it at distance, right? I'm doing this not up close. You can actually break your rock with this. It's so powerful. So here, I'm just going across it and I'm blasting out any little pockets that might have some polish. I don't want to do too much because I might break the rock. But that's the final bit to get every last little nook and cranny of polish out of this rock. And this is another reason why we use the white optical grade cerium oxide as opposed to the pink. If I miss a little piece on here, the white isn't going to catch your eye. You're not going to notice a little white spot on a rock the same way you'd notice a weird pastel pink, which isn't really that common of a color. You just kind of check it in the sun, make sure we're getting everything we got. And with that, I think we're good. So this is where you started, just off the saw, and this is where you finished. Look at that. I think that's a great polish. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's,
shiny.
you know, as far as a first rock goes for somebody, you know, what you're seeing there is the soft box for the light. I think that's a fantastic polish. I think it's a good rock. What are you going to do with it?
I mean, what can you do? Just put it on a shelf?
Yeah, I mean, like what? Like you could go in your office, you could, I guess really that. It's like a display piece, right? Like that's the idea here. You found a thing and you polished a thing. Thoughts on polishing?
Cold. It was cold. Colder than I thought. I expected wetter. You could do it in the winter time.
My water mixer puts out water at probably 100 degrees, which
I feel like it wasn't 100 degrees.
we'll test that at some point here. But yeah, I mean, are you going to polish more rocks? Like, you know, I mean, this was your idea. I didn't, just so everybody knows, I didn't trick Sarah. She wanted to do this.
I think it's almost a little bit more exciting to cut them than it is to polish them. Like,
I kind of agree.
Like, what's that gonna look like? Or what's it gonna look like? You don't know. And then you open it and you're like, oh, yeah, that's what it looks like. And I guess if you want to do anything with it, you do probably want to polish it. But
I mean,
it's a little more exciting to go from.
That's not very, I mean, it's fun to see the inside, but then you have this kind of finish where you're like, you know, like that's what you want. Like you don't want.
Yeah, you wouldn't put that on a shelf.
I mean, I guess you could display just your cut rocks, but it's not as impressive, you know? Like when you see polished rocks, cut and polished rocks, it really displays the features of it in a way where just rough off the saw, you're like, you know, like you can tell that there's something there, but it's not that, right?
Or even just the raw side.
Yeah.
Looks nice, but that looks better.
I think you did a great job with this. It was interesting for me because I've never taught anybody anything before. I guess over the internet or whatever, but that doesn't really count. I mean, in person, nobody's ever wanted me to show them anything with this. So that was a cool experience for me. And it's also cool because it's going to save me so much time that you're going to do 100% of the polishing. Yeah. And I'm going to just aim a camera and chit chat with the other people on the other side.
Yes.
Well, thanks for coming along, everybody. I hope you learned something. I hope you like this. What do you think of the rock Sara picked out? I think it was a fabulous winner. And, I don't have it right now, but I do have the first rock that I ever polished up, and it is nowhere near as good as this. And I'm never going to touch it up. It's I like the poorness of my first one.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to have to work really hard, though, to top this.
Yeah.
So congratulations on polishing your first rock. Thanks, everybody. If you like this, go check out the website. Go check out Patreon. Go check out all the other good things that we do. And with that said, I'll catch you on the next video.